Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another crash-proof edition. Today, we have a special guest, Mr. Harry Dent, and we're joined with my co-host, Joann Small. Joann, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and excited to talk with Harry.
Mr. Harry Dent, welcome to our Crash-Proof Retirement Show. Give us a little background on your career.
I started out majoring in economics in college, and after 3 courses I said, this is useless. I mean, nobody can understand these people, they don't agree on anything, and they say nobody can predict the future. So I ended up majoring in business and went to Harvard Business School. I worked for large companies, then I worked at Bain & Company as a strategic consultant to Fortune 100 companies, and I got bored with that because the change is so slow, so I started doing the same thing with new ventures in California. After doing more and more consulting, I ended up getting my own kind of theory of economics. I just took it from micro up to macro, and I said, well, I can do this for the U.S. economy. I can do it for any country in the world. Where are they in the demographic spending and not? Where are they in new technologies coming in and moving into their economies and stuff? And this is powerful stuff, and it's not complicated.
Tell us a little bit about the first book that you wrote and why.
Well, my first book was Our Power to Predict in 1989, but it was self-published, and it was for my newsletter subscribers back then and my small business consultants and speeches. I was mainly speaking to small business because no Fortune 100 company would listen to a new theory back then. And then I wrote my breakthrough book in 1993 called The Great Boom Ahead.
Why do you call it your breakthrough book?
Well, it took off. Everybody back then was saying Japan was going to take over the world, the United States was going to collapse, we're a sunset. I said, no, Japan's going to crash, and we're going to we in Europe are going to have the greatest boom in history because of the difference in demographics.
And that's very interesting. The fact that you've honed in on scientific demographics, these are the warning signs, the weather of the economy. How is it that you zeroed in on the '08 crash?
46-year lag on the birth index, because that is when the average person, Homer Simpson, spends the most money. People below average will peak a little before that. More affluent people will go to school longer, their kids they'll peak later, but the average is 46. And I had that same indicator that I only got in 1988 for the first time, told me Japan was going to crash in the 90s and the US was going to see the greatest boom in history.
You talked about a debt crash coming, a reckoning coming, and my question is, did it matter what president took place? Is Trumponomics, which hasn't been said yet, going to get us out?
No.
Or sink us quicker?
The right politician, and Obama could have done this because he didn't cause the crisis. Trump's coming in, he didn't cause this crisis. They're coming in fresh. They should say, we're in trouble and here's what we need to do to get out of this, and we're not going to grow 4% when we've got 4 times our GDP in debt, and then another 4 times in entitlements that are unfunded. We're going to have to restructure all of this, and we're going to have to retire later because we're living longer.
Why can't they restructure the debt at the same time growing the economy?
Well, here's the thing. You restructure that debt, a lot of banks and companies, especially banks, are going to fail, and that's going to have a certain effect. I call it detox. People in the healthcare industry call it detox.
Right.
If you got too much of a drug in your system, you got to detox it before you can be healthy again. You got to get this debt and these zombie banks out of our system. We got nothing but zombie debt.
Yeah,
and if we think we got it, look at China.
So you look at the amount of population, the baby boomers, you look at the specific age they get to, 46, that's when they spend the most, average person at 46. What does it tell you as far as the future of 2017? Now we have passed that average of 46 by about 5 or 6 years. Where are we headed now?
Well, the baby boomers keep dragging the U.S. economy down until about 2022, and then the millennials will more than offset them. So we've got another 6 years of down demographics. And the demographics did start to slow down in 2008, like we said. It's just governments came in with quantitative easing and just said, well, for every dollar drop in baby boomer spending, we'll just put $1 in. We'll just, wave a magic wand. And we know that doesn't work well in life. You don't get something for nothing. And now that's not working. And when bubbles burst, it tends to take 2 to 3 years for them to hit bottom. 70, 80, 90%, not 20, 30, 40, 50 as we've seen in the past and even in recent crashes. But the first 2 to 3 months of that crash, we'll see half of it happen, which means like 40%. So when people say, well, I'll just stay in the Trump rally and maybe this, I'm like, I wouldn't want to mess with this fire here. Because when it does blow, it's going to blow so fast you will not get out in time. But I think that the danger period is 2017 to early 2020. That's when the worst is going to happen, and I think it's going to start and see the biggest jolt in 2017.
Would you say that the people that should really heed these warning signs are the people that are in or near retirement, that are, counting on their money? Because if their money, if they're at risk and the market falls just 40%, that's disastrous.
It's devastating. And again, at times like this, like 1929, when you see a once-in-a-lifetime major bubble boom, and a crash like the Great Depression and debt deleveraging and bubbles deleveraging, it takes 25 years or more just to get back to even. And you don't lose 40%, you lose 80 or 90% in stocks. So it is devastating. I wouldn't even tell a 25-year-old to be betting on stocks because they're too overvalued now. I'd be telling them to put their money in bonds. But yes, aging baby boomers absolutely should be putting a premium on safety and preserving your capital after an unprecedented bubble, rather than trying to get hope you're going to get these gains for another year or two. It's suicide.
Now, Harry Dent, you've written 2 best-selling books. We have your third. It's called The Sale of a Lifetime. Tell us why our viewers should be reading this book.
I have, news cycles that I've incorporated in the last several years since the last best-selling book. And in this book, I also really focus on bubbles, the whole history of bubbles. I got a whole new model for bubbles. Bubbles are not black swan. When they burst, they say, oh, that was a black swan, a once-in-a-lifetime event. No, these things build totally predictably and exponentially, and they crash twice as fast as they build, and they go back to where the bubble starts. I can tell somebody how much downside they have in any real estate area or any stock or something, roughly by understanding how bubbles work. And people are like, oh, nobody can predict bubbles, nobody can prevent bubbles, nobody can see them. People don't see them because they're on a high. They're getting something for nothing, and that's what people buy. They buy that something for nothing, that 20% return with no apparent risk, when they should be buying something that's real.
Where can our viewers find more of this information? Do you have a newsletter, and does it give the same information that we're receiving here today?
Yeah, we do. We do think this is a very important time for people to hear real stuff and not listen to the typical stockbroker or politician that says we can get over the greatest debt bubble in history with no pain. Never happens. You have to protect yourself now. We have a free daily newsletter called Economy and Markets. You can also get that at harrydent.com. It's right up in the upper thing. You just put in your email address, you're done. Nothing else. This is a way you can get to know us, and then we have more information about our research and our investment services at dentresearch.com. I hope you will check us out. I think you'll be glad you did.
Harry Dent, this has been a very interesting interview. I thank you for coming on our show. Ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for another Crash Proof edition of Crash Proof Retirement. Thank you for joining us.